Hello? Bob Ross? You love my picture of the heart? And you want to hire me to become your apprentice? I accept. Alright, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over the heart-blood pathway. The heart has a blood pathway and an electrical pathway. In this video, I'm going to go over the blood pathway. So the pathway, in this diagram, I'm just going to show you what the different parts of the heart are. In the next slide is where I'm just going to go over the pathway live. So the heart has different chambers to it. The top chambers are called the atrium. The bottom chambers are called the ventricles. We have 4 chambers in the heart. We have the right atrium, we have the left atrium, we have the right ventricle, and then the left ventricle. We also have some arteries and veins attached to the heart. The aorta is an artery. It's the most powerful artery in our body. We also have the pulmonary artery, which goes to the lungs. We also have the superior and inferior vena cava. These are veins. We also have a pulmonary vein. And I'm going to go over what all of these mean right now. So, first, we have some rules for the path. Blood goes in one direction only. Our heart has valves that are present after every chamber to prevent backflow. We don't want blood going back to where it came from, so we have valves to prevent that from happening. Now, here's a very, very, very common misconception. Arteries do not have oxygenated blood. They do, but not all arteries have oxygenated blood. That also being saying that not all veins have deoxygenated blood. Rather, the term artery and vein means blood that goes away from the heart is an artery, and blood that goes to the heart is veins. And here's a little key that I'm going to do. So chambers I'm going to write in white. Vessels are going to be in red. Important organs are going to be in orange. And valves are going to be in blue. Okay, so let's start the pathway. So I suggest if you're ever given on a test or whatever, a problem to solve, and they say list the blood pathway of the heart, always start with the right atrium. It's going to make it so much easier. So, right atrium. So this is a chamber. Right atrium. The right atrium is this section right here, the top right-hand section. The reason it is right and not left, you're probably thinking, oh, I'm looking at this and it's the left. No. You have to think about which way the heart is oriented. If you are facing somebody, you need to reverse left and right. You're talking about left and right from their perspective. If they were facing straight, which way would be left and right? So if you're looking at something, you switch it. So this is technically the right atrium, not the left atrium. So we're talking about this part right here. It's a compartment, and it holds blood. So the right atrium. It is going to pass through a valve. Let's make the arrow, let's say yellow. So since we have a chamber, remember our rules? The rules are valves are present after every chamber. Well, we have a chamber, so now we have a valve. The valve after the right atrium is called a tricuspid valve. Tricuspid. Now, another name you may hear about, you may have heard about this valve is called the right atrial ventricular valve. It's the same thing. The right AV valve for short. Why is it atrioventricular? Well, do you remember we started at the right atrium and we're trying to get to the right ventricle, which is the next next thing in the chamber, the next thing in the pathway. So right here is where we started, and now we're going to the right ventricle, which is right here. So in between it is between the atrium and ventricle, which is why it's called atrioventricular. So we pass by a valve called the tricuspid valve. Next is a chamber. The chamber is the right ventricle. Okay, is the right ventricle. Now, I should say this ahead of time. I should have said this ahead of time. We have deoxygenated blood here. Deoxygenated blood. The blood in these chambers have no oxygen in it. Deoxygenated blood. It's going to make sense why in a few minutes. But just think, the right atrium and the right ventricle have no oxygenated blood. It's deoxygenated blood. There's no oxygen in the blood. Okay. After the right ventricle, this is a chamber. So remember our rules? We have another valve. The valve is called the pulmonary semilunar. Why is it called pulmonary semilunar? Well, I'm not going to tell you the pulmonary just right now. I will, I promise I will. But the reason it's called semilunar is because the valve looks like half of a moon. This is literally what the valve looks like. It kind of looks like this. Okay? Lunar, like moon. It literally means moon. And semi means half, so it's half a moon. It looks like half of a moon. Okay? So we passed by the pulmonary semilunar valve. Now we're going up into the pulmonary artery. Okay? Pulmonary artery. Okay? Artery means we're going away from the heart. We are taking this deoxygenated blood and taking it away from the heart. You're probably asking, where are we taking this? Well, the name pulmo, the prefix pulmo, means lungs. This is me orange. Lungs. Why are we going to the lungs? We're going to the lungs to pick up oxygen. We're doing gas exchange in our lungs, right? We're picking up oxygen, exchanging for CO2. We want to oxygenate this blood so we can supply it to our tissues, we can supply it to our other organs in our body because they need oxygen to survive. So we're going to the lungs to pick up oxygen. That is why. Now, that is why we call it pulmonary semilunar. This is the valve right before the lungs. That's why it's called pulmonary, right? Pulmo, right before the lungs. Okay. Now, we are going to go back to the heart. So if we're going back to the heart, we use veins, and this is called the pulmonary vein. We're going back to the heart. So let's cover what we did so far. So we went to the right atrium. Then we went to the right ventricle. So right atrium, right ventricle. Then we're going up into the pulmonary artery. We went to the lungs over here. Pretend it's the lungs here. And now we're going back into the heart in the pulmonary vein right here. So we're on the other side of the heart now. We're on the left-hand side of the heart. Now, Do you remember how I said that arteries do not have oxygenated blood and veins do not have deoxygenated blood? I'm going to prove it right now. The pulmonary artery here, we're going to the lungs to pick up oxygen. The blood in the pulmonary artery has no oxygen in it. It's an artery, right? We said it's an artery, and it has no oxygen in there, in the blood, because we yet to go to the lungs to pick up the oxygen. So it has no oxygen in it. Now, vice versa, the pulmonary vein, right? Remember we said veins do not always have deoxygenated blood. The pulmonary vein, the blood inside of it has oxygen because we just picked it up from the lungs. So on a test, if you ever see a true or false, all veins have deoxygenated blood, it's false because of this. So now we picked up oxygen. The pulmonary vein is going to take it back to the heart. And we're going to go into a chamber called the left atrium. Left atrium. Okay, left atrium. Now, this is a compartment. So that means we have a valve after it. Okay, what's the valve? We had a tricuspid valve here, okay? And it's called also known as the right atrioventricular valve. So if this was right atrioventricular, we should probably have a left atrioventricular, right? Yes, we do. And this is called the bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve. We said valves are blue. Okay. This has actually two other names to it. So we already covered left atrioventricular valve, or AV valve for short. But more commonly, doctors probably use this as mitral valve. Why is it called mitral? Have you ever wondered why? Well, the reason is because long time ago, we had bishops in churches, and they used to wear something on their heads, and those were called mitres. And that's kind of what it looks like, this valve. It kind of looks like a mitre. Let me draw it. It's kind of like this. Now, the reason it's called a tricuspid valve is because tri means three. It has three flaps of the valve, like 1, 2, and 3. That's what it kind of looks like. All right. So now after the bicuspid valve, we have another chamber. The left ventricle. The left ventricle is the strongest part of the heart. It has a lot of heart muscle to it. And you're going to soon see why. So we have a compartment, so that means we have a valve. If this was pulmonary semilunar, we probably have another semilunar valve. Yes, we do. It's called aortic semilunar. Okay? Valve. So let's go back to this diagram here. So we came back from the lungs, right? We were the lungs here, and we came back for the pulmonary vein. We're at the left atrium. Then we went to the left ventricle, which is this part. Now we're going to hit to the aorta. Aorta. Okay. This is a meaty artery here. It's so powerful. Aorta. And what the aorta is going to do, it's basically going to pump blood to the rest of the body. So let's say it's an organ. So Let's say blood goes to the rest of the body. Let's say that to make it easier. To drop oxygen. The whole point of this pathway is to pick up oxygen from the lungs and transport it to the body, to the rest of the tissue, to the rest of the organs, the rest of the cells. They need oxygen to survive. This is the whole goal of this. But we're not done. So we pumped blood to the rest of the body. So you dropped off the oxygen. Now the blood has deoxygenated blood. So let me just say here, oxygenated here. Okay. Now we have deoxygenated blood. Because we delivered it to the rest of the body, right? We delivered this fresh O2 rich blood to the rest of the body so it can use it. So in exchange, we pick up CO2 from it. So now we have deoxygenated blood. This is going to go back to the heart into the superior and inferior vena cava. Okay, this is a vein. I should not do it blue. What am I doing? I am so sorry. This is a vessel. It should be in red. Superior and inferior vena cava. Okay? So we went to the rest of the body, right? The aorta pumped this oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. So like you have a liver here, and then you have pancreas and stomach, whatever. Okay? They used up the oxygen. Now the blood does not have oxygen in it. So we're gonna take it back and pump it in up here and up here. Okay? So we're trying to get this blood back to the heart. So you go back to the lungs, pick up more oxygen, dump it back into the body, right? Onto the different organs and re-pick it up, right? That's what we're doing. So then we start the cycle all over again. So you go like, let's draw it like. Okay. So we're back to the right atrium. And then the cycle continues over and over and over and over again forever. That's literally what the heart blood pathway is. We're just picking up oxygen from the lungs and delivering it to the body. But we have these many chambers and valves to get through, and in vessels. So we have 4 chambers: right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. We also have 4 valves: tricuspid valve, pulmonary valve, bicuspid valve, aortic valve. We also are dealing with the pulmonary artery, which goes to the lungs. We have the pulmonary vein that takes the blood from the lungs, where we just picked up oxygen, back into the heart. Then you have the aorta, which pumps that oxygen-rich blood we just picked up from the lungs all over to the body so we can feed our body. And it comes back to our body in a deoxygenated form through the superior inferior vena cava. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Sorry if my voice is a little bit off today. I am kind of got a little sick. But I should be better soon. Hopefully. I'm not dying. But until next time, later.